opportunity to introduce a real-life superhero. Today, however, I have the honor and privilege to introduce you all to one of my superheroes, Mr. Jerry Coates. Mr. Coates, well, Jerry, is the Dean of Liberal Arts at my home campus, Tarrant County College, Southeast. Jerry received his BA from the University of Texas at Austin with a double major in classical civilization and English. He received a master's in history from the University of Texas at Arlington and a master's in English from the University of North Texas in Denton. Jerry is currently listed ABD, which for those of you that don't know, that's all but dissertation, on a PhD in English from Texas Christian University. He is also listed ABD on a PhD in European history from the University of North Texas with his dissertation in progress. Jerry has taught high school Latin, English, history, and drama, and one very bad semester of algebra. As a college professor, Jerry taught British literature and a bibliography graduates class at Texas Christian University. At the University of North Texas, Jerry taught the Lyceum lecture class in British literature, 18th century novel. And at Tarrant County College, he has taught English, composition, literature, and Western civilization. As you can see, Jerry has dedicated his life to education, and I personally have yet to find a topic that he doesn't know the answer to. Jerry has received numerous awards, such as the Kay Wilkinson's Travel Award from the University of North Texas, Chancellor's Award for Exemplary Teaching at Tarrant County College, the Van Arsdale Prize for Publication through Research Society in Victorian periodicals, and many more. Jerry, however, believes that his most notable awards include being voted Wittiest Senior Boy in high school. He noted it was likely due to the 3-time suspension for prank pulling. Jerry also noted that during his time at the University of Texas at Austin, he won 2nd place in a talent show contest by playing straws. And I personally have witnessed this talent, and that's all I can say. Hold on to your seats, Texas region, and please help me welcome Mr. Jerry Coates to the stage.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Shauna. I had no idea that I was a superhero. A little later on, we will be playing musical chairs with these officers, removing one chair at a time. The title of my talk tonight is The Ravenclaw Leadership Seminar, or Why Not to Take Yourself Too Seriously Even When You Are the Smartest Person in the Room. When Shauna asked me to do this, you know, I said, I want to be a Ravenclaw because I'm a Ravenclaw, and she said, oh, not a Gryffindor? And I said, come on, any organization that accepts Ron Weasley? Ron Weasley? I mean, I'd rather be a Hufflepuff. My talk tonight begins with a statement. It's unfinished. You know you're old. I have a birthday coming up. You know you're old when you eat.
Hey, I'm only 29!
Because I've been thinking about this little talk for, I don't know, several hours now, and I was eating at Cracker Barrel yesterday, and you've been to Cracker Barrel, right? I mean, that's where they have these great antiques and rocking chairs, and it's like the grandparent trap, and the grandparents. I mean, when we go, my wife and I have to stop. I mean, she's excited. She has to stop outside, and she wants to know what they've got. All the little themed outfits for the 2-year-old, and the 4-year-old, and the 5-year-old. And we spend more on clothing before we leave than we actually have the food. And the food, I'm telling you, the food is great. Almost because, oh, there we go. They have chicken and dumplings. And they've got meatloaf. And all kinds of really healthy stuff that you probably wouldn't eat at home. But nevertheless, there it is. Oh wait, I'm trying to make my clicker work now. Ah, there we are. They even have that. And I really have no idea what that is. I mean, I got it off the website, right? And I just looked at it and thought, well, that's going on the presentation. So I was eating at Cracker Barrel yesterday, thinking about this presentation, and this happened. Our waitress, our wait staff female, I want to be polite and correct, our wait staff person walked up, and you know how they have their names stenciled on their uniforms? Her name was Grendel. And so I kind of thought it was a joke. I said, Grendel? And she said, yes, my mom is Grendel. And I said, oh, really? I mean, because I really didn't know. And she said, yes, my mom said it was like some girl character in a book. So I want to point out to you that this is the actual ticket from yesterday, just to show that I'm not lying. You can see October 10, 14, and my weight is Rendell. B, her last name I never got. So I'm about ready to start what must be a Ravenclaw lecture, because Ravenclaws have to be intelligent, and they have to express their level of wit and intellect, and so I'm going, and my wife, who is a Hufflepuff, reached across the table and put her hand on my arm and patted me. And that was my signal to say absolutely nothing. I believe that Dr. Sheldon Cooper must be a Ravenclaw, because you know what Dr. Sheldon Cooper would have said if he had had a white person named Grendel who said, my mama named me that. She said it was this girl in a novel. And so, I mean, I'm sitting there literally with beads of sweat rolling down my head. I just go, okay. And my wife smiles and nods and said, we'd like the biscuits before dinner. You know what I wanted to tell her? I wanted to tell her, first of all, Grendel is not a girl in a book, right? Have you read Beowulf? Okay, have you ever seen it in Old English, in actual Anglo-Saxon? Okay, yeah, I mean, I don't know if you studied Anglo-Saxon. It's a dead language, so I know it. I mean, it starts out, what? H-W-A-E-T, which is Anglo-Saxon for hey, which is sort of like, listen. What way garden in gea gefruchten sinsam der Kinder? Essentially, when you read Beowulf, it sounds like the Swedish Chef, you know. It really does, and it's a uniquely non-feminist book, right? It evolves out of a very masculine-oriented culture, and so there are essentially three female characters in Beowulf. Do you know the three female characters of Beowulf? Number one, the first one listed is Hrothgar's sister. Her name is... We don't know! She's called Hrothgar's sister. She doesn't even get the nobility of getting a name. She is called Onella's queen, because she's married to the Swedish king named Onella, and she is a goda swita. That's what I say. A goda swita, Swive, S-W-I-V-E, means swive, means it's the forerunner of the word swivel. She's a good swivel. The one quality we know about the first female not named in the book is that she's good in bed. That's it. Now, women, for your What other word comes from the Anglo-Saxon word suiva? Wife. Yeah, the W-I-V-E, wife. Take that home. The second character is Hrothgar's girl, wife, right? I don't know. They never make the marital status known. Her name is Wealhtheow, and in Anglo-Saxon that means slave woman, or prize woman, or token woman. What does she do? She brings him beer, and she brings him gold, and she wears lots of jewelry because she is a kind of a trophy wife. Did you see the Budweiser commercial like from 3 years ago from the Super Bowl where the three guys get together and make their own bar, and then they say, ooh, something's missing, and one of them says, I know what, and he picks up a pitcher of beer and pours it on the floor, and all these women come writhing up out of their beer bubbles? Right, that's her, that's Wealhtheow. And then we have Grendel's mother. Her name is Grendel's mother. There is no named female in the text. Sorry, Grendel. But there is no named female in the text. I wanted to tell her that. And I wanted to say, do you see the roles for women in this text? Number 1 role, good in bed. Number 2 role, trophy wife. Number 3 role, devouring monster. If I'm a female, I want to be Grendel's mother, right? Because the other 2 roles suck. And I wanted to tell her all of this, but my wife, Hufflepuff, has her hand on my arm, and so I'm going, oh, okay, I'm okay. And she walked away, and I wanted to say, you're a giant devouring monster. Did you not know that? You have the strength of 20 men. This is how I know I'm a Ravenclaw. Because I know all this crap, and I feel the urgent need to express it all. Tonight I'm going to talk about some qualities of leadership. And I'm going to talk about 2 Ravenclaw qualities of leadership. Those qualities are humor and intellect, right? Ravenclaws are kind of renowned for their wit, for their ability to crack a joke from time to time, and they're also renowned for the level of intellect with which they can express themselves. First, I'm going to talk about humor. There are problems with being funny. Some of the problems. This is not funny, by the way. Some of the problems are that being funny is not measurable. Actually, a couple of researchers named Cooper, interestingly enough, and Barron's in 1990 began a 16-year study to try to empirically measure what makes a funny and how funny is funny. You know, the problem with funny is there is no solid rubric for saying this joke is a 10 and that one is a 5. How do you get the giraffe in the refrigerator? You open the door and you put him in. How do you get the elephant in the refrigerator? Open the door, pull the giraffe out, and you put the elephant in. See, now that one actually got a joke. So on the level of funny, 1's a 2 and 1's a 3? 0? Okay. The guy goes to a psychiatrist, says, what do you think, doc? The doctor says, I think you're crazy. And the guy says, well, I need a second opinion. Well, you're ugly too. That's an old joke, people. Okay, here's one I made up. What's a rapper's favorite toy? A yo-yo. Shauna told me that was not a funny joke. Man, that's explosive. Sorry, it must have been something in Cracker Barrel. Situation. The problems with being funny is that it's subjective. What makes something funny, like you tell a joke to your mom and your mom shakes her head and says, that's not funny. But you tell it to your 14-year-old sister and she is like hysterical. It's really subjective and frequently depends on a lot of different types of people. We've got a microphone now. Is this it? Thank you, Molly. See you at the dance. Other problems with comedy is it's situational. It's possibly even gendered because some of those things are funny to certain groups. So how does humor interact with leadership? Okay, I'm just going to go ahead and fill the board here. Humor interacts with leadership because it can be disarming. You can leave people at their ease when you crack a joke. It relieves tension during crises. Now, I'm sure there's never been a crisis in your chapter. But when a good leader sees that some event is boiling over, a well-timed quip is something that's really useful. It softens the blow of bad news. It puts things in perspective. It's a great way to fire someone. I've done it. I don't know if they thought it was funny. I thought it was hysterical. It can put things into perspective to realize that maybe in this great world, not everything is that terrible. It can work for team building, and it creates memories. So I will leave you to think about a moment when something absolutely hysterical has happened in your chapters. And when you think about it, and think about the times you have talked about that over and over and over again. The little stories that you relive because you have shared that experience. That's one of the great values of humor. It gets people to root for you. If you are having trouble with a microphone, for instance, and you can make an adequate joke about it, people will want to listen to you, even though this is the boring part of the lecture. It places an emphasis on key points in your lecture. And it's motivating and energizing. Okay, I'm just going to try to make this thing keep going. Julie? Oh, there you go. Everyone need to laugh. And you're going to tell me, but Jerry, you teach English, don't you mean needs to laugh? And no, everyone need to laugh. Everyone needs a moment of humor. Even Voldemort. And here's my favorite Steve Martin quote: "A day without sunshine is like, night." So you just can't escape a good joke, and even Voldemort understands that. What you... You guys are doing this on purpose, aren't you? Oh, okay. What you probably already know about humor. You ever heard of incongruity theory? Okay, so incongruity theory is when you say something that is absolutely completely left field, completely out of the conversational topic. So I bet you speech teachers, come on Molly, you guys know about proximal speech comments. This guy named Grice created these 5 what are called Gricean maxims that every conversation ought to obey. It has to obey things like relevance and continuity, and you have to wait for the other person to say something back. But sometimes you can jump in and it's called incongruity. You can also use it to mislead, or my favorite, you can use wordplay. You can make little jokes based on just puns. I was standing at the front desk the other day with Jared down here, and a couple of other, Priscilla, and we were just talking, and one of them mentioned vegetables, and I started making vegetable puns. Yes, simple puns. I'm pathetic. And the president walked up, and the president said, "Hey guys, what's going on?" Because that's how he talks. Don't tell him I said that. But he said, "Hey guys, what's going on?" I said, "Wow, are you all right?" He said, "Yeah, why?" And he starts looking around because he's very nervous. And I said, "Because you look beat." And everybody laughed. And he went, and he walked away. I don't know if that was the right impression to leave him with, but we all liked it. One thing you know about humor is you have to play fair. Right? You don't take advantage of people's disabilities, infirmities. You don't take advantage of people in an unfair, unkind way. Humor, I believe, is inherently kind. I think the best humor is kind. And, oh, you've got to know your audience. Okay, so I have a story to tell. About 4 years ago, I was in New York, and I wanted to experience New York, and my wife and I went to the Apollo Theater. You know the Apollo in New York, right? You ever been there? I mean, it's like a cultural experience. So we were hoping to hear music, but we got there on open comedy night, and this black guy gets up, and he starts making Martin Luther King Jr. jokes. They didn't kill him because I think he was black. But the 85% of the people in the audience who were black did not like Martin Luther King Jr. jokes. And he got the hook. I mean, it was bad. It was uncomfortable. One of the best things you can do is make fun of yourself first. Be humble. I like this one. I'm not totally useless. I can be used as a bad example. You can appreciate irony. You can know when to shut up. There are times when being funny is not called for. And you've got to recognize that time. If you're in doubt, shut up. And you can listen. And you can think and read. And above all, people will take you seriously if you are smart. Do you understand? Yes. This is the segue to the second half of the speech. Aren't you excited?
Yeah.
The bad news is the second half is longer than the first half, which belies the use of the word half, which I'm using liberally at this time. If you are smart, you can get away with a lot of being funny because people know you're not an idiot. As a classroom teacher, on the very first day, I'm a rolling circus. And they think this is going to be the easiest class in the entire world. And on the second class day, they get the first quiz. And they reassess. Because suddenly they realize that all the humor is matched with a level of intellect. And I'm very pleased with that. Well, let me return to the very first one about making fun of yourself, though. Let me show you one of leadership's many faces. 2 years ago on our campus, we were trying to promotionalize our theater. And we had not had the chancellor or a board member come to see a play ever in, at that time, what was 15 years of Southeast Campus theater productions. We had had over 50 theater productions, and the chancellor and no board member had ever come to see a play. So the theater director came up with an idea. They were doing Hairspray. And so they hired someone to be... So yeah, I was Edna. The chancellor came. 3 of the board members came. And all I had to do was put on a dress and a wig. I mean, who would have known that? But you've got to be able to make fun of yourself. Okay, let's turn away from this, please. What is intellect? Someone out there just said, "Oh my God." I can hear you, you know that? is the ability to acquire and apply knowledge and skills. That's the definition that I got off dictionary.com. I didn't even bother to look it up in a book. I need to go back one. Howard Gardner. I like Gardner. He wrote a book in 1983 called Frames of Mind, The Theory of Multiple Intelligences. Have you ever seen this book? He breaks intellect down into 8 different areas. Musical, rhythmical intellect. I play the piano and the clarinet and the euphonium and the straws. Visual spatial. Interestingly enough, 1999 Harvard Medical School produced a study indicating that men are better at visual spatial intellect. For example, they can take 3-dimensional objects and rotate them and view them from another rotational aspect more effectively than women. And they're still trying to figure out exactly why that's true. Verbal linguistic. Now, women, you get yours. Interestingly enough, women, according to that same study, were more powerful in verbal expression. They speak faster. They think faster. Okay, man, have you ever felt like when you're talking to a woman that they're scatterbrained? That's because you can't keep up. And that's you, Mr. Peoples. You have logical, mathematic, body, kinesthetic. Did you ever play sports? I played basketball. Yeah, I coached basketball. Please don't think that I was the prototypical coach. I also taught drama. Please don't think. Anyway, you have them shoot free throws, right? It's because you want to get that body memory going. Kinesthetic intelligence. Interpersonal, you relate well with others. Intrapersonal, you think about yourself, about the condition of the world and your place in it. And naturalistic, you relate to nature and the environment around you. Now, since 1983, there have been those who said that Gardner's 8 levels of intellect, actually I read one reviewer in 2006 that said it was a fascinating fiction. I don't think he liked it. I don't know if there are only 8, but this is a pretty interesting rubric to think about. Another example is from The Wife of Bath. Did you ever read the Canterbury Tales? Okay, this is the picture from the Ellesmere manuscript that was written in the 1390s, probably around 1392. Did anybody ever make you memorize those first 16 lines in Middle English? Can you still say it? One happy is sure so that the march gathered to the road and bar every village which the poor which there too engendered is the rule. I'm a performing monkey. I like The Wife of Bath. In her prologue, she says, in the very first line of the prologue, she says, experience, though no authority were in this world, is right enough for me. She says there are 2 types of intellect. Experience, the intellect that you live, and authority, the intellect that you read. And she says she is all experience. What do you know about The Wife of Bath? She wears red. She sits easily on a horse. I'm quoting. She has a diasthema, a gap between her teeth. In the Middle Ages, that was supposed to be like really hot. I love this. I mean, it kind of reduces Gardner's image of 8 down to 2. Experience and authority. Okay, so here is a type of intelligence. E.D. Hirsch, about 20 years ago, published this book called Cultural Literacy, and the subtitle is What Every American Needs to Know. It doesn't say ought to know, should know. It says needs to know. This is what you need to know to function in this culture. One guy told us this. It was a bestseller. He listed 5,000 terms of things that you should know. And he goes on a nationwide crusade to try to say that these are the things that you need to know to make you intelligent. E.D. Hirsch was at the University of Virginia, one of the most prestigious institutions in America. He was an English teacher there, and then department chair of English, and then dean of humanities, and then vice chancellor, and is retired emeritus professor. He is a smart, smart guy. And I like his list, I really do. Are you ready for today's first quiz? Enrico Fermi. Yes, he's a physicist who helped work on the Manhattan Project. Congratulations, out of a crowd of 300, we have one. Your collective intellect is dazzling. So, yes, Enrico Fermi is a physicist who worked on the Manhattan Project and helped develop the atomic bomb. Number 2, if music be the food of love, play on. Shakespeare. Yes, of course it's Shakespeare. But what? Play. 12th Night, who said that?
Thank you, Dr. Trey.
Yes, 12th Night. Can you finish the quote? Play on, for I have surfeit of it. Yes, it's the Duke in 12th Night. A problem play. By the way, if anyone ever asks you where is this quote from, in Western culture, your number 1 response should be the Bible. This is not from the Bible. Your number 2 response should be Shakespeare. And people will go, yes, that's good. Your number 3 response is puzzling. It's Alexander Pope, who wrote a lot of poetry in the 18th century, stuff like every man believes his own watch, and fools rush in where angels fear to tread, and all kinds of other famous stuff you would recognize, but you probably don't know Pope because his renown pooped out. Number 3. I just made that up. Number 3. Ramadan. A Muslim holiday. Yes, that's right. They just get on their beads. And a Muslim religious observance, the 9th month. A month of fasting. That doesn't sound like a holiday. It's not Thanksgiving. But yeah, that's good enough. Dido. Dido, a singer!
Queen of Carthage.
Queen of Carthage. In the Aeneid. That's good. Yeah, did you ever read the Aeneid? I'm like this quote, I'm close to showing off, right? Cano verumque autumn. It's the opening lines of the Aeneid. Actually, when I was in high school, I translated that whole book. I'm sorry, I took Latin from Miss Jenna Greenaway, one of the nicest, meanest teachers in the entire world. And when I went to the University of Texas, I placed out 19 hours of Latin. I just took exam after exam after exam, and after I hit 19, they said, stop, that's the department limit. And I was like channeling Miss Jana Greenaway because she beat me for 4 years, and it was so dang smart, but I wound up hating her. Dido is the Carthaginian queen who wishes that, Aeneas would stay with her and be her husband. And do you read Latin? Okay, good. Yeah, there are some great moments. I mean, the problems with translations. Some of the images where she's talking with her sister Anna. She's just met Aeneas, and he is so wonderful and persuasive, and she loves him instantaneously. And he talks about the fall of Troy and the long trip to get to Carthage, and it mirrors her own life and the loss of her own husband Zacchaeus, and she loves him, but she swore an oath never to marry again, never to love again, never to have sex again. And her sister Anna says, will you never put on the crown of Venus? What? Okay, it's a translation. They actually talked about Veni Corona. The circle of the crown is supposed to actually be an image of a part of the female anatomy. And the Latin word for Venus, Veni, does it have any other meaning? So you got to read it in Latin. It's really good. That's one of the problems with translation, but again, that's why I'm a Ravenclaw. Absolute zero. There you go, yeah. Point at which molecular motion is supposed to stop. Or 0 Kelvin. See, look, we have people in the room who can answer this stuff. Mikhail Bakhtin. Who what?
Speech genres and other essays and adversity and a protocol.
Who is that talking? That's very good. Did you meet him? No, he's been dead for a number of years. Yeah. Yeah, he talks about words, about the use of words. That's why I like it. He talks about the multiplicity of meaning that is in the interior of words. If you think about words, I mean, just like say a word, horse, or maybe I should let you pick a word. Give me a word.
Cow.
Cow. Well, where did you come up with cow? The word cow has so many different, like if I say, oh, look at that cow, right? And you're pointing at a farm field, then you're probably thinking about the quadrupedic creature who ruminates through 4 stomachs. But if I say, oh, look at that cow, I'm not even going to finish that because humor is supposed to be kind. You remember that rule? Okay, so what Bakhtin says is that words have a multiplicity of meaning, right? That there is an intense overlay. That you may have had a bad experience with a cow. You may have had a great experience with a cow. You may have had a pet cow. I don't know what your experiences with the word cow are, but every one of our experiences are just slightly minutely different, and Bakhtin says that we are to own all those differences. Okay, so number 7. 7. 7. Oh, Taft Hartley. No, he was not a president. Taft Hartley. Yes, National Labor Act, 1947, 1948, limited the abilities of labor unions to meet, to press their claims. It was the post-war economy that necessitated the Taft Hartley Act. Cuthbert.
The ghost professor. Cuthbert Binns.
Oh
Hogwarts.
my gosh, Professor Binns!
I am not going to disagree with that. But where did he probably get his name, really? Sort of like Brendan. Saint Cuthbert? Oh, really? We have a whole room full of it. Nobody knows. Okay, Saint Cuthbert. Have you ever heard of the Roman Catholic Church?
Yes.
So the word Catholic means universal. And who helped put that word in the middle of Roman Catholic Church? Cuthbert did, yes. Cuthbert was this Scotch-Irish monk who was at one point the abbey of Lindisfarne Abbey on Holy Island, one of the foreign islands. And in the mid-7th century, he called a meeting, and they tried to reconcile the Celtic rites with the Roman rites. And they had all kinds of differences, right? I mean, you've read some religious history. For example, the tonsure was different. What's the tonsure? Yeah, how they shave their heads, right? In the Roman rite, the tonsure is a little circle in the back of the head, so God can touch you here. In the Celtic or Celtic rite, it's kind of where my hair is going. It's tonsured right back here, and it goes right across the midline. And they had to argue about that. They argued about all kinds of stuff, and Cuthbert helped reconcile that and created the Roman Catholic Church. He is interred in Durham Cathedral in North England, and his bones are actually still there. One of the few saints undisturbed from the Civil War in England that ran between 1642 to 1649. You remember that? John Yossarian? Catch-22. Thank you, Orlandis. The English teachers, yes. Catch-22, Joseph Heller's novel, Yossarian, and Jeremy Bentham. Yeah, utilitarianism. Late 18th century. He created what was called Moral Calculus, a really interesting book, The Principles of Moral Calculus, where he says that every person responds to either pain or pleasure, and the amount of pain or pleasure that you get helps you decide your moral decision-making, your pathways that you create. Okay, so E.D. Hirsch says these are things you need to know. He gave this list as an example at a lecture at Ball State University. Ball State University has a very famous school. You can get a PhD there in American Cultural Studies. I'm a member of the American Pop Cultural Association. I was in Ball State when E.D. Hirsch gave the speech. I was reading a paper on Emil Reeves Trubetskoy, who is a 19th century writer in American literature. In 1888, she published a book, The Quick and the Dead. Did you ever see the movie? Yeah, The Quick and the Dead is a movie with a bunch of Hollywood actors and actresses. One of them was kind of famous for crossing her legs at one point. Sharon Stone, yeah, thanks. See? Pop culture references. So at the end of his lecture, Dr. Hirsch asked, were there any questions? And these three grad students come running up on the stage, and I'm thinking, oh my gosh, it's a takeover. I thought this went out with the 60s. And they plugged in their own set of quiz questions. From the boys at Bowling Green, pop culture. This was a list of 10 that they asked E.D. Hirsch. Number 1. Now this is from the 90s. This was like in 97 or something, so you've got to forgive them. It's a little old. Big Mac. E.D. Hirsch's answer was a truck. I have looked this up. 99.7% of the American population has eaten at least one meal at a McDonald's. Do you know who populates the other 0.3%? Well, they're very healthy. It was nothing like the meal we had today. What? But anyway, yeah, E.D. Hirsch had never eaten a meal at McDonald's. Number 2, yoink. He had no idea. He thought it had to do something with a pig. Yoink, right? To grab or snatch away. To yoink. SpongeBob. E.D. Hirsch had grandchildren and knew who SpongeBob was. They gave him half a point for Big Mac, because there is a Mack truck. And they gave him 1 point for SpongeBob. Are you counting? Bono. He thought it was a clown. Bono, excuse me. Thought it was a clown. Sampling. Thought it had to do with eating. No. Audio engineer. Drop it like it's hot. I would, but I'm afraid of one of the other terms here, because the pigs try to get it, then you poke it like it's hot. Drunk. Crazy drunk. Yeah. Everybody in the house get? No clue. Po-po. And I am not kidding, was pudding. What? I mean, I see how he got it from the P, but I never quite understood. Pop-Pop pudding. I mean, in my head at that moment, I was running all kinds of advertisements, you know. Bring your kids to Pop-Pop pudding. I just had no idea where he got it. And... No, really. Oh. Shwing! I'm not demonstrating that, thanks Molly. And talk to the hand. That's right, you remember. His score was 1.5. He got 15. They said he failed, and he needed to go to pop culture school and learn something about what intelligence really is. Okay, So now this is an argument, a conversation, and I really don't mean to take sides, because I mean my degree at UT was in classical civilizations. You know, when my dad heard I was getting a classical civ degree, he said, "So what do you do with that?" You know, and this is pretty much it. I know it's sad, isn't it? But you know, so you know, like I didn't have to look any of those terms up. I flipped through that book and I go, yeah. And I kind of agree with E.D. Hirsch that those are really important things to know. On the other hand, I didn't have to look any of these up either. Culturalist, I kind of like that stuff. So, one of the things you have to acknowledge is Ravenclaws sound smart. The words we use, this is a discussion about leadership, the words we use define us as leaders. Your linguistic signature, when you talk, you are signing your name. This is how you talk and you think and you self-represent. When you talk, you are signing your signature. It should be intentional. The things you say should be intentional. They should come out of your head with some level of intellect. The things you say should be inclusive. In this world today, we cannot be exclusive. In a mass culture of 7 billion people, we cannot exclude people. It is an inhumane effort to exclude human beings. This is something I feel passionate about. You have to have intelligence, and yes, you can occasionally be funny. Okay, so let me talk about 2 things that I do to be intentional and to think about when I sign my linguistic signature anytime I talk. I like to use allusion. People like to use allusion. You know what allusion is? It is an intentional reference to a person, place, thing, idea, or thing in previous literature, religion, or culture. That novel's title is an allusion to a Shakespearean passage. Can you name me a novel that is an allusion to a Shakespearean passage? Yeah, there are like 50, right? The Sound and the Fury. There are all kinds of very famous, Something Wicked This Way Comes from Macbeth. There are all kinds of famous novels that come out of Shakespeare. Like I said, he is the second most often quoted source in Western culture. That would be an allusion. When I say you are as smart as Einstein, I'm using both a simile and an allusion. I'm referring to a great scientist. Allusions are the very meat substance of The Simpsons. Have you seen this episode? Lisa wakes up and her horse is in her bed and she screams because she thinks it is from The Godfather, where the guy wakes up and his racehorse's head has been chopped off and laid in his bed. Now, fortunately for Lisa, her horse is actually alive. In this episode, they are trying to... This is Clockwork Orange, right? They're trying to reprogram the dog. The dog's name is? Santa's Little Helper. I love that. Santa's Little Helper is being reprogrammed by Mr. Burns into a fierce guard dog. And that is the conditioning efforts done in Clockwork Orange. So, you know, here is your 3rd test of the day. 12 episode titles. I'm going to just throw them all up on the board.
Mr. Smith.
I hope I can. Mr. Lisa Goes to Washington? What's that a reference to? Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, 1939 film starring Jimmy Stewart. And he was directed by Frank Capra. And again, I don't have to look this crap up, because I have a classical civilization degree. And also, but they don't teach you that in classical civ, right? I took a film class with Frank Capra Jr. when I was at UT. And yeah, I know, he died afterwards. And it wasn't me, but I did. I had a film studies class. If you want trivia about Mr. Smith, by the way, I'm your guy. Have you ever seen the image where he goes back and he's running through Bedford Falls and he gets the snow on his jacket? Those are actually ivory soap, you know, fluffed up ivory soap. And you can look at it. It's soap. I mean, it's soap suds that gets on his lapel, but you think it's snow because of the magic of the cinema. The Call of the Simpsons. Call of the Wild. The Crepes of Wrath. Grapes of wrath. Brother from the same planet. Brother from Another Planet, the famous 1987 blaxploitation film about an alien who looks black and he comes down to Harlem and other aliens are chasing him around. Some black Harlem guys are trying to help him, and it is an absolute hysterical film. If you've never seen it, go to your DVD store today. Rosebud. Citizen Kane, yes. The Boy Who Knew Too Much. The Man Who Knew Too Much. It's a movie that, in fact, has been made 3 different times, twice by Alfred Hitchcock. Lady Bouvier's Lover. Lady Chatterley's Lover. A Star is Born. Star is Born. Yeah, that's the Janet Gaynor film that was remade by, Julie Flickner and Garland, sorry. And it's currently in production, by the way. You can see the 4th Star is Born coming out next year. Marge Be Not Proud. This is Death Be Not Proud, though some have called you mighty. That is John Donne. I never met a physical I didn't like. The metaphysical poetry. Do I have to explain these jokes? It just wasn't that good, Jerry. The Cane Mutiny. The Canine Mutiny, sorry. Fat Man and Little Boy. Nuclear Bombs. And Days of Future Future. Sorry, X-Men Days of Future Past was made after this episode. It's actually an album by the Moody Blues, a psychedelic album from 1967. It's a wonder I can remember the year. What's interesting about illusion, it can be an invitation. If you know the illusion I'm making, then we are together, and we're a group. It can also be illuminating. It can be humorous, decontextualizing, but it can also be exclusive. If you use an illusion someone does not know, then you are excluding them from the conversation. A second device that I like to use when I'm being intentional with language is euphemism. That is the substitution of an inoffensive phrase for a phrase that is offensive or unpleasant. Excuse me, yeah, that's right. Or a phrase that is offensive or unpleasant. So it's essentially a nice way to talk about something nasty. For example, are you enjoying this demo? Bodily excretions. We don't call it that. We call it a bathroom. When you go to the bathroom, do you take a bath? Have you been to the bathroom on this campus? Have any of the bathrooms here have baths in them? Then they're not bathrooms, are they? So they are powder rooms. You walk in, or there are little girls' rooms. And the little boys' room. This is disturbing, right? I mean, if I say, I'm going to the little boys' room. It's a restroom. Now, okay, that's where you wanted to go, right? But do you go in there when you're feeling tired? When you're feeling blue? You just say, I'm going to the restroom. I need a rest. You just sit down. Or the toilette. A toilette is, it's actually, I'm saying it like it's Italian, it's French. It's this little doily, that goes on a banister, and it was very fashionable in America at the turn of the last century. And if you use the toilet, your grandma's going to be upset with you. I'm going to see a man about a horse. I'm going to drop the kids off at the pool. These are all euphemisms. And we're not stopping. Defecation, feces, urine, phlegm, bile. These are all ways to talk about bodily excretions. Interestingly enough, this is the educational moment. Interestingly enough, you remember what I said about Beowulf being kind of an anti-feminist treatise out of a masculine society, but it's inherent in the language. Another thing that's inherent in our language is a racial ethnic prejudice against Anglo-Saxons. Did you know this? Yeah, what happened in 1066? William the Conqueror. 1066, by the way, is in E.D. Hirsch's Book of Cultural Literacy. Do you see how this whole thing is tied together? So, when the Anglo-Saxons were conquered, the Anglo-Saxons become a secondary language group within a primary language group. The Norman French spoke French or Latin in official court documents for 100 years, for nearly 300 years. English disappears as a literary language, and all court documents and all literary works were published either in Latin or French. And the words of Anglo-Saxon become low-class words. You know the bad F word? That's an Anglo-Saxon word. In the world of excretion, defecation is a French word. It's an upper-class word. You can say defecation. I'm going to go defecate. What word can't you use? Yes, I said, what word can't you use? You can't use the S word that ends with it. No, because it's an Anglo-Saxon word. Anglo-Saxon words are low, guttural, valueless words, but a French word, defecation, well, that sounds almost fun. You can do that in the restroom. Feces, feces, is a Latin word, right? So you can use a Latin word, you can use a French word, but you can't use the Anglo-Saxon word because they are low class. It's not just with excretion, by the way, it's across the board. Like, you went to your mother and you've got a pain down here, and so you say, Mama, my gut hurts. And she says, oh, don't use that word. Gut, belly are Anglo-Saxon words. What's a nice word for it? Abdomen, that's the Latin word. Stomach, that's the French word, right? The French words and the Latin words are the good words, the Anglo-Saxon words are the bad words. And then there's crap. That, of course, is an actual crapper, the overhead valveless toilets, and it is in the state of Texas. How proud are you? You all own one of these. It's in the Secretary of State's original residence in the city of Austin, Texas, and you can go see it on tour. And then there's death. They passed away. They departed. They met their maker. Really? You met your mom? They faded quickly. Where are they now? They're invisible. They've gone to a better place. I want to follow them. We euphemize these things we don't want to talk about. I'm not fat, I'm big-boned, husky. You know, when I was in 6th grade, I had to move to the husky jeans at Sears Roebucks. I was proud. I was proud to be husky. It sounded okay. You can be stout, curvy, heavyset. Oh, keep going, please. Oh, chubby. Fluffy. Have a weight problem. Do you know how to fix that? Corpulent. That's a Latin word, by the way. Queen-sized, ample, full-figured, plus-size. Not like you minus-sized people. Built. And stocky. And voluptuous. And my personal favorite, thick. Yeah, she thick. See, that's okay. That is euphemizing. And this is the one, intercourse, coitus. Do you watch The Big Bang Theory? Intercursus is a Latin word. Coitus is a Latin word, right? They're okay. Copulation is a French word. It's okay. I mean, you can go to the doctor, or you can attend your science class. You remember those like 10th grade science class? And the teacher is saying, now they're having intercourse. And you're thinking, fornication. That's, they've been dating for 5 weeks. Have they done it? I like fornication. That's the one right before five-nication. It comes right after three-nication. And if you do it twice, it's two-nications. They're gonna get some. Get some what? I want some. Everybody else got some. Get busy. The opposite is going to the restroom. Or the horizontal mambo. Okay, so. And then, of course, there is sex and baseball. Hitting it off. Striking out. This is a fictional use of words, people. Don't get sad. Running the bases. They get from first to third. They come home. They score. They hit a home run. Slide! I said it anyway. I know. Batting both ways. Switch hitting. Or batting for the other team. Or the equipment, which includes the bat and the balls. Gotta know how to handle the equipment. Okay, so when you are intentional about the use of euphemism, here is where it gets very hard. Here are some euphemisms for you, and they're not altogether funny. Are they undocumented workers or are they illegal aliens? Do you understand the packaging in those two phrases? Yes, undocumented workers, they're laboring hard. Have you ever seen undocumented workers working in an afternoon sun doing concrete work in Texas? Do you want to do that work? Do we need that work done? Or are they illegal aliens? Where do they come from? Are they Martians? Enhanced interrogation or torture. Have you heard those two? Yeah, which one's a euphemism? Extrajudicial execution, or assassination, or murder. Karl Rove, by the way, I don't mean to make a political statement, but I'm going to say in both the Bush and the Clinton administrations, we committed extrajudicial execution. Our elected officials admitted to extrajudicial execution. These were people we did not try, we did not produce evidence for, and we killed. And who owns that? We do. Yeah, not so funny. Climate change or global warming. Collateral damage or the slaughter of innocents. Is it the Defense of Marriage Act? Or is it the Marriage for Heterosexual Couples Only Act? Is it a terrorist? Is it a patriot? Right, in the world of language, in the world of euphemisms, I hope you are smart enough to cut through these terms. I hope we've got an election cycle coming up. 2 more years, we have another big election coming up. I hope when you hear political speakers use these loaded phrases, you can decide how to cut through the euphemisms and strike at the heart of what those people are saying. And you can vote. Make them own their words. So here's my last example of euphemism. and what language does to us sometimes. Our language is inherently sexist. Our language is inherently racist against Anglo-Saxons, and I'm not kidding. Our language is also inherently racist against black. The color by a Columbia University professor back in the 70s wrote an essay titled 127 Ways Black is Bad. And he went on to list all the pejorative terms that are associated with black. He'd come up with one way white was bad: to whitewash, to cover up. But all the ways black is bad: to blacklist someone or something, to engage in the black market, to be behind that 8 ball, a black Monday, black sheep, black male, black death, black-hearted, black cats, and black out. Our language is inherently racist language in a lot of ways. When you use language, leaders are intentional and they're inclusive. They understand these things. Some final advice. Cultivate intellect. Read. Yeah, that was earlier in my presentation as well. Listen to music. When I talk to students, they often tell me, I'll ask them, what kind of music do you like? And the answer is, I like all kinds of music. And so I say, 10th century Burgundian court music? Do you like Greek charismatic music? How about 13th century Sephardic music? Don't you love those Arabic rhythms mixed in with the kind of Jewish lyrics? Mommy, is it time for me to sing one? See, I like 13th century Sephardic music. I do, and I have like 40 CDs of this stuff, and I listen to it. There's one that's actually a Christian cantiga, but it was written by an Arabic and Jew in its original form. It goes, Santa Maria strelato dia, mostramos via per radio se nos guia. Come on, everybody. It's written in Galaico Portuguese. It's a very early form of Spanish and Portuguese, and it's beautiful poetry. And so you tell me you like all kinds of music, and I'm going to say, which do you prefer, the bouzouki or the balalaika, the Russian or the Greek instruments that are cousins? What do you think? And I'm not saying maybe you don't know these things. I hope you do, or if you don't, I hope you take the time to discover Arabic music and African music, and I hope you take the time to discover Eastern music. I hope you listen hard. I hope you watch. Watch. With your minds, watch a movie. With your minds, watch television and watch other people. And remember the wife of Bath, that the two intellectual elements that are very, very important to your life are going to be experience and authority, the things you read in books and the things you experience as a human being. Travel. Leadership begins when you take charge of your mind. When you do this, you set tough goals. You are relentless with yourself. You are not afraid to learn subjects that are outside of what you think are your subject area. You fail, and you try again. I'm going to tell you that a speaker that had an impact on me a few years ago was Arlandis Jones. Arlandis, you had a speech in our chapter, an induction about failure. And you talked about all those people who failed, but they were relentless. That failure can in some cases be a very good thing. Be relentless about developing your intellect. It makes you a better leader. Know that you don't know. In all the studies in the graduate schools I've been to and all the classes I've taken, I have learned things I didn't know. And be honest with yourself in admitting that you don't know these things. That the people around you in this room have life experiences that you have not touched. You have not touched. I have walked the Camino de Santiago. I have walked from Saint-Jean-Pied-de-Port in France all the way across to the ocean at Finisterre in Spain. It was 560 miles, and I walked every step of it, and I walked through Galician culture. Well, I don't know if it deserves an applaud. I was tired when I finished. I walked through Astoria. I went to Cantabria. I went to Barcelona. I spent 4 months walking across Spain because I wanted to experience that culture. I plan to do the same thing in a couple of years in France. Don't be afraid to reach out to those people here and around you and say, you're experiencing something I haven't experienced. What's it like to be you? Tell me so that my experience can be a shared experience. Don't be afraid to go to that one place in Hogwarts that Hermione knew best. Go to the library. Don't be afraid to research your life and other people's life. Remember to keep your sense of humor. A Ravenclaw knows that intellect is a primary human quality that leads to good leadership. Thank you.